Hello and welcome to another in our continuing series of professional development training sessions in the Amplification series for Coleman University. Today we will discuss assessment and two of the tools available in Moodle that can help us in our assessment efforts. In today's learning session, we will do a quick overview of what assessment is and is not, see where we are at Coleman University in our assessment efforts, and spend some time looking at the Moodle rubric and outcomes tools which we can use to gather assessment data. Let's get started. In a recent webinar on assessment in higher education, Peter Jonas provided this amusing observation. The biggest issue in starting an assessment activity is defining what assessment actually is. The WASC Assessment Leadership Academy spent a great deal of time on this issue. But before we can begin to design an assessment system, we have to be very clear on what assessment means. So, what does this word actually mean? Here is one of the most basic definitions for the term. Notice that its focus is on the achievement of the outcome by the student. Where grading is concerned with the measuring of a quality of a given student's work against a standard, assessment is less granular and more holistic. Assessment is concerned with the achievement of an outcome, rather than with the relative quality of the work that demonstrates that achievement. In other words, if the outcome is that the student will add up a column of figures accurately, once they show they can do that consistently, they have achieved the outcome. Where grading might focus on the fact that 92% of the columns presented were added correctly, assessment would take a wider view that the student has proven the ability to add up a column of numbers and therefore met the outcome. Perhaps a graphic will help demonstrate this difference. In education, our purpose is always to move the student from their initial state, point A, to a desired state, point B. Let's just call these the trip from ignorance village to outcome town. Traditionally, in our industrialized view of education, the path from ignorance village to outcome town is linear. This learning line is broken up into segments based on calendars or hours, and the assumption is that if the instructors can march students down this line and keep to the schedule, when the term is done, the students will have achieved the outcome. Experienced instructors know that this is not the reality. Each student takes their own learning path toward the outcome based on their skills and background. There is no guarantee that the path will actually end at the outcome. There are even points in time where a student may move backwards in their understanding when the material that is introduced causes confusion. Along the linear track, activities are presented to the student to indicate their degree of learning. Results from these can vary depending on where the student is on his or her own individual learning path. Again, the issue is that none of these activities necessarily measures the achievement of the desired outcome. This is what assessment is trying to do, measure the degree of achievement of the outcome. Here at Coleman University, it has been decided that we will use LASAs, Learning Assessment System Assignments, or what is more commonly termed in the literature, a signature assignment. These are assignments that are specifically created to encompass the entire outcome. It is a means of measuring achievement of that outcome through performance. While assessment and grading are two different activities with different purposes, LASAs attempt to reduce overall faculty work by combining the two into a single tool. This technique has been used successfully at other institutions. Currently at Coleman University, we have about a half a dozen classes completed or in development that contain LASAs. More courses are in the pipeline as degree scaffolding is clarified. Currently, Webclass is building a report system to gather the information from the LASAs once they've been instituted. 2 administrators are currently undergoing the Assessment Leadership Academy training and will complete the training in early 2015. Formal assessment efforts are in early stages and faculty involvement is strongly encouraged. If you have an interest in this area, please let us know. The 2 tools most commonly used in Moodle for assessment are the rubric and outcomes tools. As a quick refresher, rubrics are descriptive tables that rank criteria against levels of performance. Points can be assigned to the rubrics that allow them to be used either for grading or outcome assessments, or both, as in the case of a LASA. The other tool, outcomes, simply provides a single individual summary judgment on achievement of the outcome. As its name implies, its primary use is for outcome measurement, not grading. Let's look at the use of both of these tools in assessment a bit more closely. Using rubrics to assess student work is typically done by setting up the horizontal criteria as outcomes and the vertical levels as levels of outcome achievement. These levels of achievement do not have to be that granular. A simple exceeded, achieved, or did not achieve set of levels can be sufficient. Remember, this rubric is associated with a signature assignment, or LASA, that is developed to cover all of the requirements of the outcome. In the case of LASAs, you may also find more levels of achievement, as the tool has to provide both the granular grading outcome as well as the more systemic outcome achievement. For each course, individual rubrics for the signature assignments would be summarized, giving a quick overview of outcome achievement in that class. In this first course instance, it seems that the vast majority of the class achieves both outcomes. Over the course of the assessment period, say a year to 18 months, each course instance will receive the same summarization. At the end of the assessment period, these summarizations are themselves summed to get an overall assessment of the course. Doing so reveals that while the first learning outcome has been met, the second learning outcome seems to be an issue, as almost a third of the students are unable to achieve it. Please note, no cause is indicated. We can't arbitrarily assume that it is poor teaching, weak students, or a bad textbook. Instead, this technique only raises a red flag that there is an area that needs to be examined. Faculty members in the affected courses should be the people that examine this issue. They are the closest to the problem, and they're also the most expert in the field. The question they need to pursue, at the broadest level, is why the outcome is not being met, not who is at fault. Again, the focus is on student learning and outcome achievement. The faculty should determine whether there are better ways of teaching toward a particular outcome, or if there might be problems with the assignment itself. Perhaps the assignment's directions are unclear, and so the students are giving instructors exactly what was asked for, but not what the instructors believe they should be receiving. They may need to determine if the material was actually taught in this course, or whether key concepts were actually supposed to be covered in an earlier course. The wider the initial net in problem solving, the more systemic and powerful the solution will be. Premature solutions tend to be counterproductive in the long run. Where the rubric can be a surgeon's scalpel, the outcomes tool is more of a butter knife. But like a butter knife, it is far easier to learn how to use and can be helpful in far more situations. While this particular tool is not currently being considered for use at the university level for assessment, individual schools or teachers can use this if they wish. The tool is quite simple to use once set up. We will not go into details on the setup, but merely walk you through the process. Webclass can do most of this setup work for you if requested. Initially, system scales are created in Moodle. Here we have the most basic of exceeded, met, and did not meet. Once created, these scales are available throughout the site. Outcomes are then entered into Moodle through the Outcomes pages and these scales assigned. Good practice is to use a consistent naming system for outcomes that would link back to a given course and learning outcome. Here, the short name indicates that this is Learning Outcome 4 from the English 112 class. Once the outcomes are embedded in the system, they can be linked to a given course instance. Once this preliminary work is done, the only thing that an instructor will see different in his or her course is within the assignment activity, and the use of the Outcomes tool from that point forward is dirt simple. When setting up or editing an assignment activity, underneath the grade options, the instructor will now see the outcomes associated with that course instance. By clicking on the checkbox, the outcome will be associated with that particular assignment. When the instructor then goes on to grade the assignment, the outcome, with a pull-down scale, will be available immediately below the grading box. This tool is a simple go, no-go style measure. The instructor makes a gut-level gestalt assessment of the student's abilities to meet the outcome based on the work provided. Once all the grades are in, the instructor can go back to the gradebook and select the Outcomes report to see how the class did on this outcome. Unfortunately, the default Outcomes report merely provides the count of grades and the average. Average grade is not much use in this situation. A student who exceeded the outcome would receive a score of 1, while the student who did not meet the outcome would receive a score of 3, providing an outcome average of 2, indicating the class actually met the outcome. However, these outcome scores can be downloaded as spreadsheets and more relevant statistics generated offline. The LASA is a particular use of the rubric tool. As we said before, this hybrid uses a signature assignment to both grade a student's performance and assess achievement of learning outcomes. In order to get the best measurement for assessment, these should be used on high-value activities. It is unlikely that students will expend much effort on a 4 or 5-point activity if the course is worth 1,000. However, students will tend to give their best efforts if the signature assignment is worth a significant portion of their total grade. As faculty here at Coleman University, you should be aware that classes with LASAs have an extensive amount of background detail that may not be available in the syllabus itself. Again, this is a work in progress, so the actual form the LASA including syllabi take is still up in the air. If you find yourself teaching a class with an embedded LASA, ensure that you have asked the Office of Curriculum Development for the background detail on the LASA assignment and the rubric. This can prove very helpful both in setting up the assignment and preparing your students for it, as well as aiding you in the grading and assessing of the work. That covers the overview on the Moodle tools that can be used to help us with our assessment efforts. Some of the key points we'd like you to take away is that assessment is all about the student's achievement of outcomes. Did they reach the destination educationally? That is what assessment is all about. The results of assessment efforts should be used to improve overall student learning. It is not designed to evaluate instructors, judge curriculum, or grade students, but rather to put a spotlight on areas where the students are not achieving the outcomes we promised them, so that faculty and administration can take the actions necessary to improve the learning environment for students. The two primary Moodle tools that you can explore in this area are Rubrics and the Outcomes tool itself. Where one is very granular and powerful, the other is blunt and simple. The methodology Coleman plans to use, the Learning Assessment System assignments, tries to minimize the faculty workload by both assessing and grading using a single tool based on the rubric. These are still early days in our renewed efforts at assessment. One of the primary recurring themes at WASC's Assessment Leadership Academy is that assessment depends on faculty involvement and support. This is a work in progress. Please keep an open mind as we work through it, and do share your thoughts and experiences as the process continues. That's it for today. We hope you found this training useful. Next month, we'll be looking at some of the statistical reports available within Moodle's quiz tool, which will help instructors assess the quality of the examination itself down to the question level. Even if statistics is not one of your primary interests, we think you'll find this training quite powerful. Until then, enjoy your teaching, and we look forward to seeing you in a month. Good luck.